Hi, my name is Sibiya. I am an actor slash model slash presenter. In South Africa. So I used to be a dancer back in the day. We used to do like crump, freestyle, choreography, a whole lot of hip hop genres. And I was in a dance crew, and my crew kind of couldn't afford space anymore for rehearsal venues because it was pretty steep. So a friend of mine suggested, like, hey, well, guys, listen, there's space in our church. I'll speak to my pastor, and maybe we could rehearse there. We can have a venue for free. Like, okay, it's a dope idea. So, oh man, I wasn't a big fan of church at the time, being raised in a Christian household and everything, but at that time I was like, nah, church is not for me. So we started rehearsing, and the pastor welcomed us. So that's how I met Reverend Tim Omotoso, and that's how I became a member, started fellowshipping in Jesus Dominion International. Just to fast track my journey, at the time, hip hop dancing was seen as taboo in churches, and a lot of people didn't take well to it. But we were allowed to perform in church, rehearse in church. We even used it as a tool for evangelism, when we're going out for outreaches and so forth. At that time, I was pretty much, I would say, adolescent. So I've been in the ministry of GDI from 2009. Yeah, 2008/2009. So it's almost about 10 years now. And it really started changing and shifting the way that I view things and I view life, I'd never had someone, the most precious gift you can have in life is someone believing in you. And here I was at a point where I had someone who believed in me more than anybody else, someone who encouraged me and who stood by me, someone who said that there's more to life. I learned lessons like a vision or a dream is a picture of a preferred life. But you need to have a picture of a preferred life before you can dream first. And you need to broaden your horizons, and that sky is the limit. And that Christianity is not just about spirituality and being righteous. That Christianity is about progress. That Christianity is about, a lot of things that I'd never known before. So one of the things that I fell in love with when I got to this particular ministry, JDI, is how the teachings the way they were structured and how they were different. Being raised in a Christian household, I thought I'd had a form of godliness, or I knew what godliness entails, what Christianity entails, but only to find that there was still growing, that there's always room for growth. So one of the things that I learned is that personalize God for yourself. I learned to have a relationship with God. I learned that knowing God is not what your pastor tells you. Knowing God is not what your parents tell you. That you need to know God for yourself. You need to have a relationship. That we need to stop quoting people and quoting pastors and quoting, and quoting psychology and quoting all these things, but actually know the word for yourself. And that's one thing that I admired about Reverend Tim Omotoso, the fact that he pushed us to knowing God for ourselves, and he pushed me to knowing God for myself, and he pushed me to finding out God's purpose for my life. And that something that I looked down and despised, or I wouldn't say despised, but something that I thought was not in line with what God wanted, like going into media and TV. Someone to stand by you and believe in you and to push you to go there. When someone stands by you and believes in you more than your parents, more than your friends, and more than anybody else in your life. So that's when I took it upon myself to say, actually, I'm inspired and I want to make this man my mentor, and this man is going to be my mentor. And he's been mentoring me since. Under his mentorship, I've learned the concept of faith. I've learned the concept of falling and rising, the concept of mercy, the concept of grace. But above everything else, I left Durban with literally after paying for my bus ticket, I had 50 rand, and I moved to Johannesburg to pursue a career in media. Having said that, I stayed from before I came to the ministry. I was not working. I was just back and forth. I thought my life was over. I squandered my opportunities. I went to school. I kind of messed up in school. I used to bunk a lot in college. I got GP refusal. I couldn't write my exams. That was my life basically, and I thought that I'd messed up, and I thought that there was no going back. But when you have someone who teaches about second chances, teaches about forgiveness and understanding mercy, I think that's when things started to make sense. That okay, it's not too late for me to start over. It's not too late to make something out of my life. And I think a lot of times we throw away our lives because we think it's too late to start over, because there's no one to encourage us, no one to believe in us. And for me, that was something very valuable I learned. So after not working for 3-4 years, I'm like, okay, Lord, maybe it's not too late for me to start over. Maybe I could move to Johannesburg. So encourage me to move to Johannesburg, because a lot of platforms, a lot of infrastructure here for media. And that's my journey to Johannesburg. So fast track to Johannesburg with 50 rand in my pocket, no family, I know no one, no friends. And that's how my journey began, from squatting I moved over 9 different times in a space of like under 11 months, sleeping in people's lounges, gippy, just so I could have a place to stay. I mean, I would walk to castings and auditions. I would walk for 40, 50 kilometers to and fro just to go to an audition, But because I believed and I was inspired and I knew that my life had to mean something, there was more to life. I mean, I counted all pure joy until a point where God sent other people, into my life, people who took me in and they were like family to me, because God will always send people, God will always send help. I mean, one of the things I learned as well is that whatever you initiate, God will inaugurate. That's one of the words of wisdom that Reverend Tim Omotoso, my father, will always speak. So whatever you initiate, God will inaugurate. And I said, like, Lord, I've initiated, I've taken a step of faith. Now the rest is up to you. Like, all I can do is pray, but I'm not the one who answers prayers, because answering of prayers is not in my hands. And a family took me in, a lovely family. I will not disclose the name though. They took me in. They believed in me. I stayed with them for a while. They helped me get to auditions, get to castings. And again, I'll reiterate this. Having someone to believe in is the greatest thing that anyone could ever do in life. I mean, it supersedes even monetary value. So fast track, I got my first gig a year later on a show called Sunday Chillers on SABC 1. I did that show for about 2.5 years as a host. Fast track after that, I landed a lead role in the biggest telenovela on South African screens right now. It's called Uzalo on SABC 1. I did that for another 2.5 years, and by God's grace now, I'm doing something else called The Queen, which is one of the biggest shows or telenovelas on subscription or pay TV. And it's been an amazing journey. I've been on The Queen now for about 6 months. And yeah, man, but all this started from somewhere. All this started because I had someone to egg me on and to push me. All this started because I had someone who believed in me when I saw nothing in myself, when I saw no good in myself, And that's just I just want to share my personal testimony of OK and how K came to be. And this is not where I'm going, by the way. Like, there's still a lot more in store. There's a lot of things that have been spoken over my life. There's a lot of things that I believe in God for. A lot of things that I'm praying to God for. But mentorship is a very important thing in life. And mentorship is in different degrees. Some people prefer not to know their mentors. Some people prefer to know their mentors. But I'd say that mentorship is important because in life you make mistakes, and some mistakes can be very detrimental. And you could be safe from certain things if there was mentorship or there was guidance in your life. I'm grateful for the guidance that I've received under JDI. I'm grateful for the guidance I've received under my father, Reverend Tim Omotoso. And that's my journey, man. That's where I am right now. And a lot of people have been ostracizing me for my decision and my stance not to leave the church and not to denounce the church. At the end of the day, I found home in the church. At the end of the day, I found myself in the church, and I am what I am today as a result of the teachings that I've learned there. And that's my journey and that's my walk. Sibiya, someone who received great grace. Those are the words of my mentor. Sibiya, someone who received great grace. I'm still living by grace, and I'm still, coping each day by grace, not because I'm perfect. And the sad thing about being in the public eye is that all my mistakes, all my flaws always be put out there for everyone to know. But all my good works and all my good deeds will never be put out there. But I know that there's a camera that is always on when other cameras are off. So I'm very grateful for my journey. I'm very grateful for my ministry. And yeah, man, JDI is my home, and that's my testimony, and that's my walk within my ministry and under the mentorship of my father, Reverend Tim Omotoso.